You're listening to Storage Nerds Podcast, where we unravel the best-kept secret of the real estate investing world, the storage industry. Join the grassroots guru in self-storage, Stacy Rossetti, in insightful discussions about finding, funding, and running these spaces, allowing you to yield the highest returns possible. Get your foot in the door on self-storage and discover how to properly purchase facilities, negotiate with sellers, and close the deal without worries. Start unpacking that investment wisdom with Stacy right now.
Hey everybody, my name is Stacy Rossetti and I teach people how to get started in self-storage investing. I have been teaching self-storage investing for about 5 years now. So not a long time, but I've been teaching and helping students buy storage facilities for the last 5 years. I've been in the industry for about 10 years now. I'm going to go over my story here in just a bit, but just wanted to kind of give you some background. And right now I own 15 storage facilities, and I've helped around between like 50 and 60 people buy storage facilities as well too. So, and also I'm partnering probably in about maybe 20 storage facilities right now. So I have really been involved in this industry for a while. I actually got involved in this industry before people were even thinking about self-storage. Now, self-storage has been around forever. But, since the 1960s, there were storage facilities built in Texas in the 1960s. And I've been to go and look at some of those. But for ultimately for the 21st century, storage didn't really get popular until the last couple of years. And I started in the industry about 2015. So anyways, I want to go over some of the questions that I get on a regular basis from people that I talk to that are interested in Storage Nerds. Storage Nerds is really a brand, but it's my education platform. It's where I teach people how to get started in self-storage. So that's kind of why I'm here today. But I want to go over like the step-by-step process on how you can get started with or without Storage Nerds. And ultimately, you can do this on your own. And so I teach how to get started, all the main steps. If you've been following me, I actually really do teach. I'm going to do that today. It's not going to be like super high level. It's going to be like concrete steps. And then what I'm going to do today is go over like my story and how I got started and kind of go through that so you can see how I progressed from not knowing anything about storage to owning 15, and then starting my coaching program, and then ending up with Storage Nerds and how I got there as well too. So you can just kind of see how everything flowed for me. Now, the 15 storage facilities that I own, I didn't pay a dime for any of those, okay? I actually raised money and I used other people's money to buy those. So I'm gonna kind of get into that as well too. And then I'm going to go over just what I call my 3-step process, which is find them, fund them, run them, and what you need to do in order to find storage facilities and run deal analysis on them so that you can know whether or not it's a good deal. And then also, how do you fund them? All the different ways that you can fund deals. And then also, I'm going to go over management. The run them part is the management part, okay? And that's really kind of the most important part. And I would say most of the time when you're listening to me right now, you are not thinking about the management part. You're thinking, how do I get started and how do I pay for these things, right? But the truth of the matter is that if you do not manage your properties properly, then you are not going to make money. And this is something that I've learned too over the last 10 years that I've been doing this. So I'm going to kind of get into that a little bit. So if you want to spend the next hour with me, then what I would do is just kind of, I would hang out with me for a little while, listen, be present. And then also there's going to be a form that pops up, and it's going to be like your name and then your email address. And once you put that in, then you will get access to the rest of the session. And I will go through everything that I just talked about. So again, I'm here to help you get your foot in the door. Oh, I wanted to point out too that typically I'm teaching people that are buying storage facilities that are less than $2 million. Okay, so my students are buying facilities from $500,000 to $1.5 million on average. Now, I do have quite a few students that have bought 2 million plus storage facilities. But I'm typically like $3 million or less is what I am. Okay. So, and like between 1 to 2 million or 500,000 to 1.5 is kind of where the students like, that's the first deal that they're buying. Okay. So if you're listening to me and you're like, no, you have to buy 40,000 square feet or 50,000 square feet in order to get your foot in the door, I'm probably not going to be the right person to listen to, because that is a whole different type of facility. And there's nothing wrong with buying those at all, right? You have to raise money, you have to syndicate, you have to learn, you have to crowdfund, you have to learn how to buy facilities like that. But ultimately, the people that I work with, they just want to get started. They want to buy a small facility, figure out if it's something that they want to do or not, and then they're going to move on to the bigger facilities. Okay, so that is what I'm here to do. That is what my purpose is. That is how I serve others. So if you're interested, put your name into the form, put your email address, and let's get started. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just go over my story and how I really progressed from owning 0 storage facilities to now 15 facilities. Okay. And I just want to let everybody know that I did not start in self-storage investing. I started in rehabbing. So what happened was in 2010, my husband, so really what happened was that the company that I was working for was closing down the department that I was working for. And they let us know, they gave us about 6 months notice and said, we decided to shut everything down. We have 6 months notice right now to start looking for a job. And then we are going to give you like a 6-month severance pay. So it was actually a really good deal. So like almost a year of pay, and they were just shutting the company down. So during that 6 months, my husband, what he was doing is he owned a home inspection company, and it was doing really, really well. And he had started it before the downturn. He started it like 2008. Well, he started like right in the middle of the downturn. Okay. And this is where all of the houses, of course, were going into foreclosure, and there really wasn't a lot of buying going on. And that's kind of when he started his home inspection company. And so he really kind of went through building that out, and I saw him building that out. And I was really proud of kind of just the type of person that he was becoming. And so he basically, when we found out that my company was shutting down, which is, remember, during the downturn when everybody was just like, it was just like really, really hard. So everybody was losing their houses. And what happened was that my husband had convinced me to get started in real estate investing. And the reason why is because he saw all these houses. He was doing these home inspections for these houses, and these people they were just walking away from these houses. There were so many different foreclosures, and there was a lot of houses that honestly were left in shambles and really needed a lot of work. And so he was in his mind thinking, wow, we should buy some of these and like fix them up and sell them is what we should do. And so we started really learning about real estate investing. He took me to a seminar, and I don't know if you guys remember, but back in like 2008, 9, 10, 11 is kind of when real estate investing got super popular. And he took me to one of these seminars, and we learned about how real estate investing was. And I was really kind of just like, I don't know if I want to do this or not. But he was like, you have to do this because I see so many houses out there. There's a lot of opportunity. And I was like, okay. So I started learning about how to flip homes. And that was like 2010. We decided to pay a lot of money to get into a coaching program. And then ultimately, I started learning about real estate investing. In the first couple of years that I was in real estate investing, I flipped homes, a lot of homes. All right. So I'm showing you here kind of what happened. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because when I got started in real estate investing, there was a lot of houses for sale. But if you remember, there was no money. There was no money to borrow at all. Okay. So ultimately, it was a double-edged sword. I mean, there was a lot of opportunity, a lot of houses, and they were also super cheap. I used to buy houses for $50,000. I would put $50,000 into them, and then I would sell them for $150,000. And I got really, really good at doing that. Now, how did I get all that money? I raised it, right? Is what I did. So during this time, which is where I'm showing you, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. I joined the coaching program. I had a mentor telling me exactly what to do. And then I followed what the mentor said, and I started really getting confident enough to make offers on houses. And then I also got really, really confident on raising money. All right. Because the truth is there were no banks out there lending. There was not anything there wasn't really a lot of money. Now, this is during this time, if you remember, this is really when hard money lending became really popular as well too. But the hard money lending, you would borrow, let's say if I had to borrow $100,000 to do a rehab, they would charge anywhere from 15 to 20%. It was like super high interest rates. And so instead of borrowing hard money, which a lot of people do in real estate investing, I decided to really learn how to raise money. And I got really good at talking to people about letting me borrow their money. And I also got really, really good at creative deal structures, right? So that's like seller financing or, assuming loans or structure, like subject to structures or something like that, okay? So I decided that instead of me paying 20% to borrow somebody's money, I was going to instead learn how to raise capital. So this time, me coming into the real estate investing niche, this was a really, really good time. I didn't know it at the time because I was always like sitting there just begging people for money. But ultimately, I really learned the skills that I have today where I'm syndicating, I've got funds, I'm crowdfunding and all that kind of stuff for deals, that I'm able to get deals done with creative deal structures and also with syndications. Okay, so this is why I think it's a very important time to just talk about it because the reason I'm bringing this up is because commercial real estate investing is expensive. It's very expensive. Like I said, I'm telling you, our students are buying properties for $1 million plus, sometimes $2 and $3 million. And a lot of people can't wrap their head around how could I possibly ever buy $1 million property? I can barely even afford, to buy my own house right now. But the truth of the matter is, if you want to get really good at commercial real estate, it doesn't matter if it's storage or warehouses or flex space or multifamily or whatever it is, you have to be good at raising money. You have to be good at doing this. You also have to be good at creative deal structures and understanding the concept of creating a win-win situation with an owner so that you guys can both work out how you'll be able to buy the property from that owner. Okay, so this time period from 2010 to 2014 is when I learned how to do that. I got really, really good at creative deal structures. I got really good at talking to owners and making offers with owners. And I also got really good at just, the confidence to ask people for money and raising the money that I would need in order to do all the deals that I did. So from 2010 to 2016, right? Right around that time is when I was rehabbing. I rehabbed a lot of houses. I was one of those crazy people that was doing 15 rehabs at the same time, all the time. All right. And I was running around like a crazy person. And I was super stressed out. And my husband had his home inspection company, and that was really doing very, very well. And then I had the rehabs, and that's kind of how we worked it. And his income was active income, right? His income was the income that was really paying all the bills, because he would just, he would do a rehab and get that money right then and there. He would do a home inspection and he would get that money right then and there. Whereas with rehab, we never got paid until we actually sold a house. We never knew when we were going to sell houses. Okay, so I was really more of that like wealth building, and he was taking care of the family and building that up. And then something amazing happened. In 2015, I got pregnant. Okay, and it was in the summer of 2015 that I found out that I was pregnant, and we were really so excited. We were so happy. We had just gotten married in 2014. So we'd been together it took us like 6 years to get married, but we'd been together for a while. We finally got married. And then when I got pregnant, I don't know what happens like in like women when you get pregnant, but like all of a sudden your mindset just kind of like shifts. And ultimately, at the time that I got pregnant, I was rehabbing 15 houses, and I was coaching. I was helping the coaching program that had helped me, and I was running around like a crazy person, and I was just like, I was really stressed out. So, when I got pregnant, I was thinking to myself, how am I actually ever going to manage all these houses and at the same time, like stay home and be a mother and take care of this baby that I'm about to have? Okay. And so ultimately I decided to stop rehabbing homes. And now, obviously, when I decided to stop rehabbing homes, I was rehabbing 15 homes at that time, and it takes a while to get houses done. And I had also had another, probably at least 5 to 10 houses that were in the pipeline. I couldn't just stop rehabbing homes. And it took a long time. It actually took until 2017 for me to be completely out of rehabbing and just do the final house. But from 2015, so I got pregnant in 2015. I had told all my entire team that I was no longer going to be rehabbing homes. And of course, everybody was like freaking out. And I had a realtor that I was working with. And I told the realtor, like, I'm not going to rehab any homes. And he just started, what is happening? Because we had sold almost 100 homes together. And I said, I want to focus solely on passive income. I want to find something where I can stay at home with my daughter and at the same time, be involved in real estate investing. So find something that is passive for me. And I really, honestly, up to that point, had not thought about being passive. Okay. Although I'd been learning about it, I just haven't really done anything. Now, remember, I was focusing on rehabbing. I was focusing on raising money. That was kind of the sole thing that I was doing, was like really raising money so I could do all the rehabs that I wanted to do. And then I was really kind of pushing and learning and trying to figure out this creative deal structure stuff. And I did buy a whole bunch of houses. I bought houses for 0% interest. I bought some creative deal structures along the way, and I tried to figure those out as well too. But ultimately, I was not focusing on rental properties at all. I wasn't focusing on passive income. So my realtor got to work, and he started really looking for properties for me that could be passive. Now, during this time, if you were back in the day remembering this, about 2015 on is when multifamily started to get more popular. I mean, before 2015, nobody was talking about multifamily, okay? And so he started, like, my realtor started bringing me multifamily properties. And I would look at them, maybe I could do multifamily and I could manage them and that could be passive income. But every time when I went to go look at the multifamily property, they all just needed so much work, honestly. And I just did not want to be stressed out about the work, doing more rehabs in order to be able to get to the property. I really wanted something that was just turnkey, easy, nothing that could stress me out. So we ruled out multifamily. And then he started bringing me these portfolios of rental properties. And so our idea was maybe to, like, all the money that I had raised like almost $5 million in the past couple of years. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I can convince all of these people that were working with me to pool their money together, and I could buy a big portfolio of rental houses. We started looking at that. But honestly, I was just like, I was hormonal, and I was like, pregnant and having this baby. And I was just like, no, I don't want to do anything with houses anymore. I was like, I really want to just get out of houses. And so then luckily what happened is that there was, my realtor had found a storage facility that was 20 minutes away from my house. And it had been on the market for 5 years and nobody bought this thing. Now, think about that. Like, this would never happen nowadays, right? You can't have properties sitting for 5 years, but if it was 2016 and that property had been sitting since 2010, 2011, and nobody had bought it. Okay, so I'm going to go over the story of buying my very first storage facility in a few minutes, but ultimately I drove over and looked at the facility, and then within the next month or two, I closed on that storage facility. And I had no idea about what I was getting into storage. I just knew that it was considered passive income. And on top of that, it was only like 20 minutes away from my house. And so for me, that just sounded perfect. Okay. So I'm going to get into that here in just a minute. But so that first property, after I bought that first facility, it took me about a year and a half to figure out how to manage that thing, run it, understand the concept of storage investing. And you have to remember that back in that day, like 2016, there was actually two other people that had been teaching about self-storage investing. One of them kind of, sort of, and the other one, that was kind of his thing. And so, I ended up going and kind of doing a boot camp and stuff and trying to figure it out. But ultimately, there was really like nobody out there talking about storage. Nobody was really teaching about it, honestly. And it actually really, how do you run a storage facility? And this is something that's super important to me, is the management part of the storage facilities. A lot of people think about finding and funding, but you're not thinking about the running part. I've mentioned this. And the running part is the most important part. And like, there's still, to this day, is hardly anybody out there that's teaching concrete ways on how to manage your properties so that you can be better at increasing the income and decreasing your expenses. And there just wasn't anything out there. So like in Storage Nerds, we have a facility owner mastermind. It's like only owners, and we're getting together on a regular basis and talking about like, what is everybody doing right now to make sure that you are managing these properties properly. And you just don't, go out and look. There's nobody out there teaching this. Everybody's teaching about how I made $1 million on my storage facility. But the truth of the matter is that if you are not managing your property properly, then you will not be successful in this industry. So you've got to focus more on running a business rather than how do I find and fund the thing, right? So Storage Nerd is kind of this complete, the complete circle of what you need involved in the industry. Okay. So from 2016, I had my daughter. My daughter's name is Lillian. Okay. And our storage facilities are called Miss Lillian's Self Storage. That is our brand. We named them after her because ultimately she's the reason why we got into storage. All right. So, and then I also take her over to the storage facilities. I'm like, this is yours. And she's just like, whatever, Mom, I'm just so bored right now, so, but Miss Lillian Self-Storage was born when Lillian was born as well too. And she is ultimately the reason why I even have my book, everything that we have is because of her. So, and for her as well. So, and we are a family-owned business. That's it. This is us. You will be working with us if you decide to work with us. So, okay. Now, so I bought one facility. It took me about 18 months to figure that thing out. Okay. And then I bought another facility, and it took about a year for me to figure that out. And now I'm buying facilities that are around 100 units. Okay. So I am not buying massive, huge storage facilities. Now, the way that you run a 100 unit facility is almost exactly the same way that you run a 600 unit facility. Okay. And, there's not a lot of difference in the management style. Okay. But to get to the point where I could actually buy a 600 unit facility, that to me was like a long way away. I just needed to figure out how to manage these little tiny facilities. Okay. And so we started buying facilities from 2016 to 2021. I bought facilities that are about 100 units, and we have 11 of those. Okay. And, me and my husband, and then what happened is that my husband, we started to buy all these storage facilities. my husband, he decided that he wanted to sell the home inspection company, because by that time there was a lot of home inspectors, a ridiculous amount. Everybody wanted to be a home inspector, right? And so we decided to sell the home inspection company. So he sold that, and he moved over into the management side of the storage facilities. And ultimately, that is kind of how we are. We team up now. So he does not have the home inspection company. I am finding and funding, and he's running. And that's how we do it. That's the partnership for us. And then he's the one that goes out and does a lot of work. He does a lot of CapEx and stuff. And we could get into that on the management side. But ultimately, we bought for a long time, little tiny facilities, around 100 units. And then we spend the next couple of years really kind of stabilizing them. We buy severely mismanaged facilities. Now, this is not for everybody. There's mismanaged facilities, and then there's income producing properties, right? But we typically bought severely mismanaged facilities. And that's just me coming from the rehabbing niche of the industry and just seeing horrible, ugly storage facilities and wanting to fix those up. And honestly, the truth is there's really not a lot of mismanaged facilities out there anymore. I mean, typically most people have bought them up and they've kind of tried to stabilize them or stabilize them. If you get into the industry right now, most likely you will not find mismanaged facilities. Now, I used to teach and I used to push mismanaged facilities because that's really what was out there. But nowadays, ultimately, most of the facilities that you find will have some sort of an income. It may not be what it's supposed to be, but it's making income, okay? So the ones that I bought, they had been left abandoned. Now, what's really interesting is that one of my virtual assistants, he just found an abandoned storage facility last week. And so they are still out there. There are mismanaged facilities out there. And this was a completely abandoned storage facility just sitting there. And so those are still out there as well too. For the most part, I would say 20% of the facilities are going to be mismanaged and 80% are going to be managed or income producing, but maybe they're not producing. Most likely they're not producing what they should be producing. So in storage, the opportunity is taking a property that has not been managed properly and making it make what it should be making, right? Which is on the management side, which I'm telling you is really the opportunity in storage now, outside of building new and leasing that up. Okay, so we're not talking about that. But there's a few mismanaged where you have to do a lot of work and kind of get them up and running. And then there's mostly income producing, but they're not making what they should be making. Okay. So from 2016 to 2021, we're just hustling and we're buying storage facilities. What I'm doing is I'm raising money. I personally am finding the facilities. I got that down, that's for sure. There's plenty of facilities out there that owners won't offer on, okay? And then we're analyzing those deals and we're making offers, seeing what sticks, and then we're taking those facilities and we're getting them from 25, 50, 75% full to 90% full, and at the price that they should be, at the price that the market rate or the standard rate that your price should be for that unit size, okay? So that's really what we're doing, okay, from these times. And it's just figuring out the industry and really buying a lot of facilities and stuff. I started Storage Nerds at right in 2020 when COVID started. Like that, I had to launch Storage Nerds in December of 2019, and then COVID came out in like 2020, okay? And so, it was really crazy that year. Everybody's trying to figure out what's going on and stuff. And in 2020, I had only had 6 facilities. That's it. Okay, that's it when I started Storage Nerds. I'm the type of person that if I figure something out and I figure out that there's like kind of an opportunity, then I'm going to share that with the world. I am not the type of person that keeps secrets to myself. I am a very open, abundant person. I believe in abundance. And so I started sharing that there's a great opportunity here, okay, to get started. And this is honestly right before even like right when storage was becoming popular. Okay, this is right at that time. So, and from 2016 to 2020, I would just talk to owners and just be, all right, let's work out a deal. And they'd be like, yeah, sure. It was like super easy to find storage and buy it. That was like the prime time to be buying storage was when I got into it. I was very, very blessed, very lucky, because it was not difficult to find facilities and get them funded. Okay, it really wasn't. Now, 2021 and on, when everybody started getting into storage and interested in storage, then obviously there is a lot of competition. Okay, there's a lot of storage facilities out there. There's a lot of people interested in getting self-storage. Also remember that the prices went up for everything. And then we had those really low interest rates. Okay, so from 2020 on, everybody was buying at like the top of the market for the properties. And then at the same time, they were going to a bank and getting super low interest rates. I did not do this. I just raise money. I don't go to the bank and get funding. But so all my facilities that I've bought are typically, they're either have a creative deal structure or I raise the money to buy them. I personally do not have any loans on any bank accounts ever. Okay, never. And so it is possible to do that if you learn how to raise money. And then from 2020 to 20, and then in 2020 also was like when I was like, I want to start a fund. I was talking to one of my coaches and he was like, Stacy, you're kind of right at that time where I think you could probably do a fund. You should really consider doing a fund. And I was like, really? And I was like, I didn't ever think about that, because I had no idea about funds. But that is when I decided I'm going to start a fund. I had no idea about how to do it, the process. And actually to start my very first fund started in 2020. That was when I got the idea of doing it. And then in 2022 is when I bought my first 2 facilities inside the fund. Okay, so it took me 2 years. Now, you guys are looking at me and you're thinking, wow, Stacy, I can't believe you've done all this. But I want you to see year by year by year, everything that I've done, honestly, is I am slow and steady wins the race. That is me. So it looks like I've been doing everything so fast and stuff, but the truth is that I am not fast at all. And actually, storage fits perfectly into my personality because storage is also very slow. And, and it's a buy and hold and you hold on to it and it takes 5 to 10 years to make money on a facility sometimes. And, and that's just how I am, honestly. I'm just that type of personality, right? So that is like, it fits. And my husband is also the same way. It takes a long time for us to do anything. And I know it seems like it looks like I'm doing everything super fast, but it's not. Now I do a lot of stuff. I always have a lot of things going on. So that's why it always looks like I'm busy and everything. But ultimately storage is slow and steady wins the race. So you could see from 2016 to 2020, I only had 6 facilities. Okay. And then I just started this fund. I did not buy a lot of facilities. I started the fund and then we bought 4 facilities inside this fund. Okay. And then I started really learning syndication. I learned how to syndicate deals, crowdfund deals, pool money together and do syndications. And that's when I started doing this kind of syndication. Got really popular for multifamily during this time, but like never hardly ever for storage. I was kind of one of the first ones to do this as well too. And then of course, everybody started doing funds for storage facilities and stuff. And now you can put your money into any type of a fund really out there. Funds got really popular during this time. I'm the type of person too, I feel that I was kind of like a trendsetter on a lot of things in the last 15 years. I was kind of one of the first ones to be doing, I'd be like, let's just try it. And that's kind of where I was. Whereas a lot of people are coming in now and trying to figure all that out, or they're kind of coming in a little bit later. But funds started to get really popular 2021. And I raised enough money to buy 4 storage facilities inside one fund. I crowdfunded 4 facilities, and they were bigger facilities. They were more like $1.5 million to $2.5 million. Now, remember, I'm buying facilities that are smaller facilities up to 2020. They're really $1 million or less, and so we had all these facilities that we were managing, and then we moved on to bigger deals. Like I'm telling you that, and I still only have, $2 million or so, $2.5 million facilities or less. I don't buy huge, big, massive deals. I just don't. And that's just not our personality. It's really not, me and my husband, all right? And so we don't want to have $100 million in assets or something, or $200 million in assets. I mean, for us, that's just really kind of like mind-blowing. And where we're at right now, because me and my husband, we are vertically integrated. Okay, so as we're going through each of these years that you can see, we do not have a third-party management company managing everything. We do everything ourselves. So we're building up this asset management company where we have people that are answering phones, people that are doing the boots on the ground stuff. We're doing the CapEx. My husband kind of does most of the CapEx, but like he hires people to help do, gravel or something like this, but he manages that CapEx. And CapEx, if you don't know what CapEx is capital expenditures, which is the stuff that you need to do in order to improve the property. So let's just say you want to re-gravel or repaint, any type of improvement, that would be it. The boots on the ground people, they're the ones that overlock, when somebody's late, and they're the ones that kind of clean the trash up when somebody does, leaves trash, or when you auction a unit off, they're the ones that kind of, if it doesn't go, they clean those units out and stuff like this. So that's boots on the ground. And then there's the CapEx, and then there's customer support. Okay, so as we're going through these years, we're building out this team, this asset management team, where we now have 15 storage facilities, and we have a team to manage all of those storage facilities. So we are vertically integrated. Now, is this a way? This is not the only way to do it. All right. You can actually do it yourself, or you can hire third-party management companies. You can't afford to hire a third-party management company unless you have a $2 million plus of inventory, because it does cost quite a bit of money to manage facilities as well. So sometimes you just have to look and see, can I afford that or not? In smaller facilities, you really can't afford that. So we do it all ourselves. That's what we do. And so now we're going through, I raised money to buy facilities. I also helped students syndicate deals out. And I also started partnering with students on deals as well. From 2020, so this is when I started Storage Nerds. I was teaching, I was coaching, and then after a while, there were students that just, they just needed help with raising money and stuff. And like I said, over the course of the last 10 years, 10, 15 years, I got really, really good at creative deal structures, and I got really good at raising money. And so I use those 2 skills. I use being able to find deals, being able to run deal analysis and come up with creative deal structures, and raising money to help the students in Storage Nerds be able to do this as well too. So that is what I do. That's really kind of my purpose. And that's kind of what I do well. And that's what I love to do as well. So that is how Storage Nerds came to be. And that is where I'm at right now. So right now we have 11 facilities ourselves. We have 4 facilities in our fund, and then I'm partnering in another 15 to 20 deals right now with students. And then during this time is when Storage Nerds Academy got started, and then also Storage Nerds Acquisitions. Acquisitions is where we do lead generation. That is where I'm finding deals for you. My team is finding deals for you, and we're partnering on the deals with you. And then Academy is just the education platform. It's an online education platform. So that's kind of where it came from. And again, I'm telling you that I'm the type of person that if something works, I really do. I want to share it with the world. I do not keep that stuff to myself. So, I'm an open book. And if you follow me, you know this. Okay. I have podcasts, there's YouTube pages. I'm all over. Just Google my name or Google Stacy Rossetti or Storage Nerds, and you can see everything that I do. And, and it's really been just a blessing, not only to be able to get into this industry and figure out how this industry works, but also help anybody that's interested get their foot into the door into this industry. Now, is it easy? No, it's not easy at all. Is it passive? No, it's not passive at all. Okay. Now, it doesn't really get too busy until you get around maybe 400, 500, 600 doors. Right. So the first couple, I was like, yeah, this is good. I can handle this and stuff. And then we started hiring out because I got busier and busier. Now, so that's kind of the process for my story. I want to go into next how I bought the first facility and how I kind of got into this industry. And that facility that I bought is really kind of a typical facility that a lot of people in Storage Nerds buy. Typically 500,000 to maybe 2 million is kind of where everybody's at. You can't really find a facility less than 500,000, but you can buy it, but it's just really hard right now to make money on those types of facilities. And so now we have just found a couple, like I found the abandoned facility one. We also found one where we found one where the owner wanted $175,000 for his facility. It was a really good facility. So you do find stuff like that, like really sub-tertiary markets. But I'm going to get into the first facility and how we kind of bought that. We found it. We ran deal analysis. We funded it, and then we're managing now. So that's kind of the next story. So I will move on to the next section. Okay, so I want to get into just my first facility and how I found it, funded it, and I'm running it. And so I found this facility in 2016, closed on it right when Lillian was born, and it's the first facility in Miss Lillian's self-storage. Okay. And so the way that I found this facility is through a realtor. So back in the day, I had a realtor that I had been working with on the rehab side. And then he went out and started looking for all these, properties for me for passive income. He's the one that found this. This facility, if you remember, it was listed on the MLS for 5 years and nobody had bought it. Okay. And so my realtor called me up and he basically said, hey, I found a storage facility. What do you think about storage? And I said, never really thought about storage. And he said, why don't you just go drive by and take a look at it and see if it's something that you'd be interested in. So I said, okay. And the good thing is only 20 minutes from my house. So I was like super excited. So the next day I drove over just to take a look at it. And it's kind of like, it's on a busy road, but it's not right on a busy road. You take a road down maybe half a mile, and it's kind of in the back a little bit is how it is. And it's also in a very industrial kind of area, like I would say like lower income industrial area. Back in the day, this is how it was. Okay. Now that whole area has been built out, and our competition, there was no competition when I bought this facility because it was an industrial area. And now right up the road, I have Life Storage and CubeSmart or something. I can't remember, Extra Space. I can't remember. Like they came in and just built a whole bunch of storage facilities right there because there really wasn't anything there, So now I do compete with, so this is considered primary market is what it's considered. And I bought it when it was really, I would say not even secondary, it'd be like even tertiary market. And now it's primary market. So and this is in the Atlanta area, just so you know. So now you know how Atlanta has been booming. And I bring that up just because it's something that you have to think about, right? Are you buying at the edge of a town where everybody's moving in that direction? And is it going to become, is it tertiary now? And maybe in 5 or 10 years, we've had this 5 years. So in 5 years, this became primary market. And then the reason I bring this up too is because I talk to my students about this a lot, but ultimately you have to think about who your competition is going to be. And, when you're in a secondary or a tertiary market, and when I say tertiary, I just mean in the middle of nowhere, country, small populations or whatever, or like just not built out or whatever, not gentrified, then you ultimately, you start out with competition, certain competition. And then what's going to happen in 5, 10, 15, or 20 years is that you're going to have different types of competition, which has happened to us on this property. So when I bought this property, there was no competition. There was like one storage facility up the way that was super run down, just as run down as this one was. And then there was nothing else. Okay, now we have Live Storage and CubeSmart and Extra Space like quarter mile away from us. And so that is our competition. And I'm going to tell you that having bigger players as your competition is not fun at all. Okay, so, being in a secondary market is good on the one hand, but also can be bad on the other side. And so you got to start thinking about this stuff, right? And the way that you market nowadays is not the way that you used to market. When I started, 10 years ago, people were not online marketing their storage facilities. In fact, when I bought this storage facility, there was only 3 choices of property management companies 10 years ago. 3 choices. That was it. And it was the older one that had been around forever. And then there was one that was kind of a newer one that had been around for maybe a couple of years. And then there was like a brand new one that had just been launched. Okay. And that was my choices. And the older one that had been around a couple of years, which is SiteLink, they did not, when I got started in the industry, they did not have an online application. Now they're online. But you had to get their software and put it onto the computer. You know how you used to do that in the old days, right? And so, a lot has happened in the last 10 years that I've been doing this. And, I don't know how much more changes are going to be in the industry. Like we just had a facility owner mastermind with all the owners and storage nerds last month. And one of my students, he just implemented AI into a storage facility, which we talked about for the hour that we met. And he went through kind of what he did. And I thought it was super interesting. He now has an AI AI agent answering the phone for him. Right. So he does not have somebody answering the phone. And he's gone through this whole software where he trains that program to answer the questions that come up. And he's been going through that now for the last month or so. And it was very, very interesting that, he has like an AI agent answering his phone and taking calls for new tenants. Okay, so a lot of stuff is happening. So who knows what's going to happen in the next 10 years, right? But ultimately, my point is that I started 10 years ago, and it was a completely different world. Now, you have to think about who your competition is going to be, so that because there's competition out there now. Whereas like when I was buying storage, you weren't thinking about competition as much. Now I wasn't in primary market, facilities, which is probably a whole different mindset back in the day too. But ultimately, secondary and tertiary markets was where I was buying. And there wasn't a lot of competition. But now over the course of the last 5 years, everything's just changed. And so that is kind of what we talk about in Storage Nerds a lot. That's what I go over in the Academy a lot. And that's why I want you to consider getting into the Academy, because of all the things that you're thinking about right now about storage, there is so much out there to learn and understand so that you are educated and making good decisions on what kinds of facilities you want to buy and how you want to run those facilities. Okay, so my very first facility, this is it. Okay, so I drove up to this facility, and when I drove up to this facility, it was a disaster. It was a disaster. So basically the way it looks is one long building, and there's like 60 10 by 10 units like on each side, just the way that you see it here. Okay. And then also there's it's a 3-acre lot. So the owner used all the other, all the land to do parking. Now remember, it's in an industrial area. So parking in this area is industrial. So there was tow trucks and dump trucks and big rigs and box trucks and stuff like this. And when I pulled up to the gate, first of all, you can't really see a lot. I could only see kind of in. I couldn't get in. I didn't have the code to get in. I just drove by, took a look at it to see if there's something that I'd be doing. But like even the very first lane right here, the parking space right here, there was an RV in this spot. And it literally was parked kind of straight, not even parked at an angle. It was parked straight and it was blocking the entrance to the facility. So I could not even really, like this whole bottom section over here, I could not see what was over there at all. And because of this RV, it looked like the owner was just, go find a spot, whatever. If you can find something, good luck, right? And that's how it was. And so this is my very first impression of storage. And honestly, for me coming from rehabbing and going to this for me was perfect. Okay, it did not scare me at all. In fact, I just saw like dollar signs is what I saw. And I was really actually very excited because it was like something that I could still fix up, but I could do it on my time. There was no timeline to it. And then I called up, like I basically called the realtor up and I said, hey, I'm interested in this facility. I want to meet the owner. And he said, okay, yeah. And so he called the realtor that had listed it and said, look, we have somebody that's interested and wants to meet the owner, walk the property and talk to the owner a little bit. Do you think the owner would be interested? And the realtor said, yes, of course, because he's been selling this thing for 5 years and nobody bought it, right? So I called the owner, and this is kind of how I do things, is I always talk to the owners. As much as I possibly, in all of the facilities I've ever bought, I always talk to the owners. And so we met over there. Now, the way that I do this, okay, just so you know, is I was pregnant. All right. I was just about to have Lillian. And so I was like this big old pregnant lady. And then my husband was there. And then I also brought my private lender. Okay. So remember that I used private lenders and I raised money to do all these rehabs. And there was one house I was about to finish rehabbing on, and I knew I was going to make a certain amount of money on that deal that I could just roll over into the next deal. Okay. And so I called the lender up and I said, hey, would you be interested in doing something more long-term instead of like 1 year, maybe a couple of years? I have a storage facility that I'm looking at and I'm thinking about buying it. And I would just need, instead of you giving me money for a year to do a rehab, we could extend it out for a couple of years or so until I figured this thing out. He was like, yeah. And we had done a couple of deals together before. So he was like, yeah, sure, of course, whatever you want, Stacy. So I said, come. I said, can you drive? And he lived also, like, he was a neighbor, actually. So he's like, he came over. The very first private lender that I ever had was my neighbor. All right. I just happened to be talking to him about what I was thinking about doing. And he said, yes, I'd be interested in doing that as well, too. I want to learn more about that. And so then I brought my neighbor over, and so it was like me, my husband, my realtor, and then the private lender. And then also the realtor and the owner was there. And we walked the whole property. And the owner, he was an older guy. He was 88 years old. He had built this facility in 1980. And he was tired of it. He was just not into it. He said the first 20 years from 1980 to 2000, this place was making a lot of money. He loved it. And then from 2020 to 2015, he was not into it anymore. Like all of a sudden, I mean, just think about that. 10, 20, 35 years later, of course, you're not going to be into something. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so as we were walking around, I had no idea about storage. I didn't know how much money this was going to be making. All I knew is I could kind of sort of calculate it in my mind. And I told my husband and I told the lender, I was like, walk the property. I want you to see the lane. I want you to count the parking spaces that you think that we could be doing. And I want you to look at the units and see how many units there are and what can we make per unit. So this guy, he had 60 10 by 10s. Okay. And then he didn't have any real parking spaces. There was no parking spaces. There was just like cars all over the place, like a junkyard. And, but we went around and we calculated he had 40 cars there. So we were like, we at least could put 40 cars in this place. Right. And he had 60 units. Now, when I asked him how much money he was making, on a month, he said around $2,000 is what he was making on this property. That's 120, that's 100 units. And he was only making $2,000. So I already knew in my mind that there could be a huge opportunity here if we could clean this place up, fix it up, and make money on it. So, and even my realtor, like we were walking around and my realtor was looking at me and he was just like, this is a very good deal. He's like, you have to figure out how to buy this. And he was like getting super excited as well too. That's why I bring my lenders with me so they can see, it's exciting to buy real estate and stuff. And so, so I talked to the owner. The owner had it listed for $500,000. But he was only making $2,000 a month. This is what he told me. And I asked him, I said, so are all these units full? And he said, yeah, they're all full. And I was like, well, how much money are you making on him? And he said $2,000. I was like, how is that even possible that you're making $2,000 on this place? Like everything's full. He said, oh no, they're full. It's full of junk and nobody's paying. Right. And so that was kind of a light bulb went off in my mind when he was telling me his story. And this is why I always have my students meet their owners, because they can tell you their story and what they're thinking and what they want and stuff. Right. And so a light bulb went off and I was like, okay, so this is like 60 units here. And we could probably, let's just say we get $50 each. Right. That's already $3,000 a month, and he's only making $2,000. He only had a handful of tenants in the units that were actually paying. Okay. And then the parking spots as well too. He was charging, he said anywhere from $25 a month to $35 a month. And, so I said, okay, well, what if I can get like $35 a month? I mean, for 40 parking spaces, that's still another couple $1,000s a month. I should really be able to make at least $5,000 a month on this property, right? And so, and my mind was thinking, I'm about to make about $250,000 on a deal. My realtor was about to get $250,000 on a deal that we were working, not my realtor. My lender, my apologies. My lender was about to get $200,000 back on a rehab that we were rehabbing. And I knew that I had to place that $250,000 somewhere, right? Now, this owner of this property here had it listed for $500,000. And I already knew that I couldn't afford $500,000. I would never pay $500,000 for this. And so as we were walking around the property, I was thinking, like, what am I going to be able to do? What am I going to be able to offer for this property? And so I asked the owner, I said, can you please share with me your numbers, how much money that you're making? Do you have anything to show for that? And he said, yes. And so he gave me his ledger, a ledger, okay? It was actually a book that he had been using since 1980 to keep track of his expenses. It was like this massive, huge book, and that is what he gave me. It was nuts. And so I couldn't even read the ledger. I don't even know how to read a ledger, all right? So I just knew that when he handed over the ledger, he was like, look, just take my ledger. You can give it back to me if you want to look through all my numbers and stuff. And I was like, okay. So then I had like this big old book that we were carrying around, put it in the car. And so I just knew that I was going to be making $250,000. I was going to have to place $250,000. And I paid 10% on that interest, typically 9 to 10% is what I was paying. And so I knew I was going to have to pay $2,000 a month on that, $2,000 plus a month if I borrowed that money. And he only made $2,000. Remember, he was only making that much. So I knew that I would have enough money to pay the mortgage if I could convince him to sell the property at $200,000 to $250,000. And then any expenses, I didn't know the expenses at the time on how to manage a facility. And back then, really expenses were like super low because you just managed it yourself. You know what I'm saying? So the expenses, I was like, I'll come out of pocket whatever needs to get done to clean this thing up. I'll come out of pocket to get it up and running, whatever it costs. We'll come out of pocket to do that. If I can get him to sell this property to me for $200,000 to $250,000, and then that way, at least the mortgage is paid for, and I can pay for that, and then we'll come out of pocket for the rest. And that was my mindset on the very first deal. Okay. And so it's just me talking to the owner and thinking through this. Okay. So how did I find this thing? Is I found it through a realtor. How did I run deal analysis? That was back in the day when I didn't even know what deal analysis was. All right. So, and I bought this deal. So I offered, let me see if I have it here. So I offered $200,000 on the deal. I told him right then and there, when we were talking to the owner, I said, look, I was like, we can pay $200,000 for this. I was like, and he was like, $200,000. And he was like really upset. And I was like, first of all, I said, my lender here, Rick, already has the money ready to go. Like, we can close in 3 weeks if you want. But I need to be able to afford the mortgage to him. And I'll have to pay him $2,000 plus a month. And you only make that much money. So that's why I'm coming up with that number. So I explained it to him. And he was just like, no, I'm not going to do $200,000. And I said, okay. So I said, if you change your mind, just let us know. And so we all left, parted ways. And then a couple of days later, his realtor called my realtor and said $250,000. And I was like, yes, for sure. So I called the lender up and I was like, he said 250. And Rick was like, you have to take that deal. I was like, all right, give me the money. So he gave me, so this is how it works with me, is that he gave me 100% of the purchase price. So I came up with no money to purchase the storage facility. The only money that I had to come up with is to do the rehab, to fix it up, to clean it up. It's not really a rehab anyways, but it's more like improving it, right? Improving the property to be able to make the most amount of money that you possibly can on your storage facility. Okay. Over time, I started out with 60 units. We had to clean all those units out, man. I'm going to tell you, that's why I said it took 18 months to really figure this thing out. Because every unit was full of crap. So we had to learn how to do the auction process. And then this is back when I was looking at software. I was like, there's got to be a software out there to help me manage all these tenants. And so then I started doing all these demos with this software. And let me see if I put funding. Did I put running on here? Yeah, find, fund, run here. Okay, so, right. So on the management side, I was doing demos with software and I didn't even implement the software until 3 months after I bought the facility. So like we were still like the first couple months just taking cash, trying to figure the whole thing out. And then I implemented StoreEdge into it. And then I started having to train the tenants to use the software, which was horrible, I'm going to tell y'all. And I had to get them to sign the contract online, electronically. And these people had been like tenants at this facility for 10 plus years probably. And they were just paying $25 a month. And then all of a sudden this lady comes in and she's like, too bad, you got to get online and sign a contract and stuff. So it was not fun at all, but it happened. It took me a good year and it happened. And then we started cleaning up, trying to figure out whose cars belong to who. We started learning about the auction process. We learned about how to auction off units legally, right? The legal way in Georgia to be able to auction off units. Every state has their own rules. And so we started implementing that and doing that. And it took a long time for us to figure that out. I mean, there's nobody to teach you how to do this stuff. So we had to figure it out. Back in the day, this is how it was. We also had to figure out how to auction off vehicles. Vehicles are considered personal property. And by law, what is your state's rules on auctioning off vehicles? And we had to figure all that out. And that took forever, And then you have to remember, too, that this is an industrial facility. And it's not run down, but it's kind of like we have tow trucks and dump trucks coming in. And so, for instance, we have like a dump truck company where I think they park over here on the back side over here. And there's like 5 dump trucks. And that's what they do, is like junk and things like that. So we set up the day parking over here. So they come in, they park their vehicles here, and then they go and they pick up their dump trucks or their tow trucks and they drive out. You can either park in your own lane or you can park in the day parking. Okay, so they park over there. We just were setting up these systems, honestly. This is what I'm talking about. Management is, moving people online, answering the phones, moving people online. figuring out how your boots on the ground, how you're going to, run this portion, and then also your auction process. And then if you have parking, that's a whole different ball game is what it is. It's a whole different thing. And then a whole bunch of stuff, just like this is what we're trying to figure out. Okay. So that is what is happening in the first 18 months of us owning this thing. Okay. It was fun. And at the same time, it was kind of fun for us, honestly. We would take Lillian over. She spent most of the time at this facility. We would take her over and try to figure out how to, clean out units and stuff. And then all these tow trucks and dump trucks and all these trucks, they would drive, they'd come in, you drive in, right? And then this is how you come in and you kind of go this way is how it is. And you have to go all the way around to exit. All right. And there was a gate there and the gate was always broken. I was Pete was always trying to fix this thing. And so then this whole area in the middle started looking really run down, because all those heavy trucks are hitting it and stuff. At one point, we even re-graveled that whole thing. I'm talking about CapEx, right? So that's us re-graveling, and then getting all the parking spaces. We now have the parking spaces, 60 parking spaces we have there. And we also have 60 10 by 10 units. Now you could take the wall out, you could take the wall out of these here, and then you could make it into a 10 by 20 as well too. But we really don't have a lot of those. I think we have maybe 2 or 3 of those and that's it. Okay. And then at one point, these two right here, the concrete split. So we had to redo the concrete in those two. So little things like that come up. We've had this thing now 5-6 years and that stuff is coming up. But ultimately, he was making around $2,000, okay, a month for 60 and 40 parking spaces. And we are now at 60 and 60, and we're making around $10,000 a month on that property, okay? And we for funding, I told you that he wanted 500. We got it for 250 just by meeting the owner, walking the property, building a connection, explaining our side of the story so that the owner understood, and then coming up with a number that we could both be happy with. We closed on this. We had a private money lender, right, give us $250,000 at 9% interest. That's what he gives us. And, but you could go to a bank and get a loan. You could get an SBA loan probably for this, right? And then, or you could have syndicated this money out. Syndicating just means raising money and, trying to get people to give you the money for it. Or you could have done a creative deal structure, right? I could have got him to seller finance the deal as well too and convince him to do that. Okay, so these are all the things that you're going to learn about in the Storage Nerds Academy. And then ultimately, I teach my 3-step process right here is find them, fund them, and run them. Now, you need to learn how to find properties, where to find them, and how to find them. I teach going directly to the owners. That's what I teach. So we cut out the brokers and the wholesalers, okay? And then I teach also deal analysis. So if you join the academy, you will get our deal analyzer. And my deal analyzer shows you how to run numbers in these different ways, okay? Are you going to have a private lender? You're going to go to a bank. What kind of bank loan are you going to get? Are you going to do a creative deal structure? You can run the numbers on my deal analyzer with all these different types of scenarios, okay? And you're going to learn how to do that because now you have to train your brain not only on how to find them and run deal analysis, but the question I get all the time is is this a good deal? How do I know if this is a good deal? And so I'm telling everybody that, get the deal analyzer and start really training your brain to look at these numbers because you have to learn how to understand commercial real estate deal analysis. That's what it is. And it's a whole different thing from land or houses or anything else. It's just so you have to learn those kinds of terms. And when you look at a deal, is it a good deal? What's cap rate? What's ROI? What's your net income? What's your gross income? What's, all kinds of stuff. And then in storage, just so you know, it's considered a warehouse, okay? And it's price per square foot. Okay, so I'm going to put that down so you guys know. And then it's like total square footage, right? So like you don't talk about doors or things like this in storage. You talk about what's your total square foot and what's your price per square foot, right? You want to have the right lingo when you're talking. It's a storage facility. It's not a storage unit or a storage door, or it's like it's a storage facility. So you got to learn this kind of lingo and stuff, because a lot of people say a whole bunch of different things, And then also funding, I talked about all the different ways that you can fund, and then the management part, right? So setting it up so that you have a facility under contract and you onboard that facility so that you are taking payments on day one, not like me trying to figure it all out months and months and months after you own the storage facility, which just basically creates even more chaos than you really need, honestly. And then also after you get it kind of up and running, it's like, how do I make this as passive as I possibly can? And what are the things that I need to do to automate and systematize the facility so that they are as passive as they possibly can? So that is really what I'm trying to show you overall, how I went through. It took me years to figure this out. And that is what the Storage Nerds Academy is going to be teaching you in the next couple of weeks. Okay, so, all right. So I'm going to now move on to the Storage Nerds Academy and what that is and like how you can take advantage of it. The Storage Nerds Academy is only around $100 a month right now. That's it. So it's not even that expensive. And it's available for anybody that wants to learn how to get started in self-storage. It's the online education platform. So please give me just a few minutes to kind of go through what is included into that for very little money. And you could just really get started now educating yourself on how to get started in this industry. Okay, all right, so let's move on to Storage Nerds Academy and what that is and how it can help you to get started in this industry, be educated in this industry, make good decisions on storage facilities being bought. And so basically what the Storage Nerds Academy is it's going to be an online education platform where I take every course, every training I've ever done, and all of my students' case studies and any industry speakers where I've had like maybe on my podcast or something like this, and I put them into this online platform. So you have everything that you need in order to learn how to find, fund, and run storage facilities. I teach it with 3 different types of audiences. One of them is the beginners, which I say for most people, it's going to be you're a beginner. Like you're trying to figure this out. Do I want to get in or how do I do this? The second thing is owners. So if you are an owner and you own a storage facility and you want to build your portfolio out, the Academy has a whole section for owners, right? So that's management, and then also how to build out your portfolio, and then you'll get access to the owner mastermind. There's a lot of stuff just for owners, because remember I told you that the management part's the most important part. So owners typically want to buy more facilities and manage their own facilities that they have better, and so that's what the owner part is. The beginners, they want to just know, like, how do I find them? How do I fund them? How do I know if it's a good deal? Okay, how do I run numbers and how do I make offers? How do I put the contract together? So that's in the beginners part. And then the wholesaler section, there's a whole section on wholesaling, because essentially the Storage Nerds acquisitions department, which I'm not talking about here, but that is that we have just, people that do wholesale self-storage. You can wholesale self-storage as well too. On your own, you can do this. So I talk about like, what is wholesaling? How does it work? So some people that are listening to me right now and you're thinking like, how can I afford to buy a storage facility when I don't have any money, right? So then what I do is I teach my students to wholesale first, make a little money on the wholesales that you do, and then you can buy your facility. So that's kind of the wholesaling section. So if you're listening to me and you don't have any money, wholesaling is going to be the best roadmap for you inside Storage Nerds Academy. there are 3 different roadmaps: beginners, owners, and wholesalers. You'll see that once you log into the dashboard, you'll see that. And then you also have access to the courses. There's Find Them, Fund Them, Run Them, which is a 3 hours, 1 hour for each one of those. Find them, fund them, run them. Very high level. This is like how the industry works. Quick get started understanding this niche course. Okay. And then there's a jumpstart course. And the jumpstart's for people like, look, I just want to get started like right now, finding them, talking to owners, making offers. And so that's like that's a 4-hour course. Or I go through what's called my 6-step system. And my 6-step system, okay, is what it is. And that's like looking at your facility from a business owner's perspective. And like, what do I need to do to start setting up this business? Okay. That's the jump start. And then there's Super Simple Self-Storage, which is my main course. And that is like hundreds of hours of like maybe 15 to 20 minute videos on like from I don't have any idea what I'm doing to like management. It's like a whole course, okay? And so that's the main course. And then there's the Deal Analyzer course, which is like, how do I run numbers and me going through my Deal Analyzer. So like when you join the academy, you're going to get access to my Deal Analyzer, and it's a spreadsheet. And it's like when you first look at it, you're just like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's going on. But ultimately, if you just go through the course and you kind of follow how I'm teaching it, then it'll take you through how to run deal analysis and how to understand deal analysis and how to make offers. So inside my Deal Analyzer is the magic offer letter, okay? And the magic offer letter is created from the numbers that you run inside the Deal Analyzer. And then we send out offers. And that's what I teach, is how to send out offers. And the Deal Analyzer basically does that for you. It doesn't actually send it out, but it creates the offer so you can send it to the owner. Okay. And then remember that I teach not making one offer, but I teach making 4 different offers at the same time. And when you run your analysis on the Deal Analyzer, it runs 5 different ways at the same time. Okay. And I push creative deal structures. I push, raising capital, running numbers to raise capital. That's kind of how I push it, because I want to create a win-win situation for the owners. And so that is what you're going to get out of the Deal Analyzer. The Deal Analyzer and its course, super powerful. If there's anything here that you want to learn, that is what you want to learn. And that's what you want to use as your tool. It's a very, very powerful tool to make offers, and even just to get you started. Let's say you get started and you start making all these offers and you buy a facility or 2. And then after a while, you're like, I want to move on to like super duper Excel spreadsheet. Because like we have like a couple of people that are buying like 4, 5, 6, 7, their 7th facility right now. And they run deal analysis a little bit different, but ultimately for beginners, deal analysis is like the Deal Analyzer course is perfect. Okay. Now, wholesaling self-storage is a course. And so like that's going to be one in your roadmap for you that want to get into self-storage but don't have a lot of money. Then you can wholesale your first couple. There's plenty of storage facilities out there. You don't have to worry, I'm going to have to pass this one up or something. Then you just move on to the next one. You wholesale it. We have one student that just wholesaled it, made $25,000 on it. He's saving that money and he's working on wholesaling another one. And then he'll have $50,000, and then he'll use that as a down payment for maybe, a small deal somewhere. And then he works his way up. You got to start somewhere. I have very small facilities as well too. I have no shame in telling anybody that I started with very small facilities and I worked my way up. And you can do this as well too. Anybody can do this, okay? And then there's also the management course. So owners, especially once you own a facility, how are you marketing your facility? How is your business listing? How are you building your portfolio out? This kind of stuff, right? So that's the management and for the owners. And then there's the development and the conversion. So there's people here listening. They're like, I have a piece of land and I want to build on it. We have a course just for you. It's called Development and Conversions. And for people that want to build out or expand, that is the course for you. Okay, so everything that you can think of in the storage industry, there is a course for you in the academy. When you get onto the dashboard as well, you have the boot camps. All right, so I've done the Find Them, the Fund Them, and the Run Them boot camp. I've separated those out, and I've done those a couple of times, and you get access to those, which is like me taking like 2 full days on nothing but finding and deal analysis. There's actually about 30 hours of me teaching on finding them and deal analysis, and it gets into like the nitty gritty on like everything. There's 15 different ways to find storage facilities. I get into that and show you exactly how you do all those. And then the funding as well too. I spent 4 days going over how I bought 15 facilities without any money. So that starts with raising money and takes it all the way through partnering, setting up your structures, all different ways that you can buy the facilities. All right. So that is what the funding is. If you're thinking and you're worried, and I would say like most of the people that I talk to, they're not understanding how they can fund storage facilities that are $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. All right. And like we have a student that just bought his very first facility. He had no idea about storage at all. He only had $150,000. That's it. That's all he had. He syndicated his very first deal. I helped him to do that. And he raised enough money to syndicate that deal out. And he bought a $2.5 million facility with only $150,000. Okay. So that is like that's what you're going to learn in the funding part. Okay. In the funding boot camp. And then running them is all management, right? It's like, talking about auctions, boots on the ground, your phone people, and all like the little tiny things like your fees and your contract and SEO and your website and everything that you can think of. Like we have gone into the nitty gritty and we've showed you how we manage all of our stuff and how we do everything. How do we get tenants to move into our 15 facilities that are either in tertiary markets, which is a whole different way of managing them, from secondary markets and primary. So we own 15 facilities across all different types of markets and all different types of states. And we talk about how to manage all those, how to market for those. All right, so you can kind of see how we do all that, okay? And then we have the Stacy Teaches. This is also on the dashboard. And this is like all of the trainings that I've done specifically on finding, funding, and running, deal analysis, and wholesaling. And I taught like every week for years on very specific topics. So for instance, like one of the things that I taught was how to do a competitive analysis. Right? So if you own a storage facility, how do you look at your competitors and what do you look for to see what pricing you should be adjusting your pricing to based on what the competitors are doing? Or how do you market and manage your facilities based on the way that competitors are doing it? Okay, so like that's like a very specific, like nobody's talking about that. I'm the only one that's talking about this type of stuff. Okay, very specific. I'm going to tell you for the most part, any type of podcast or training that is out in the world, right, that's available for you is going to be very high level. This is what I'm doing. I'm making $1 million. Great, awesome. I'm the only one that's teaching how do you really actually do the little tiny things, okay? How do you manage your phone support? How do you hire the best people? How do you train the phone support to answer the phones properly? The people that answer your phones are the ones that are going to make or break how successful you are in this industry. Okay. So it's deal analysis, super specific deal analysis. How do you run your numbers? How do you look at numbers? What's cap rate? What's ROA? All kinds of stuff like this. And then all the different types of funding. And we just do I go over the deal analyzer a lot in the funding part. That's where I'm sitting and going over the deal analyzer in the funding or the deal analysis. And then all the different types of like ways you can fund deals, right? And what's the difference and stuff. And then the running would be a lot of pricing, competition, boots on the ground, phones, stuff like that. And then there's wholesaling stuff. So there's a whole bunch of like me just teaching. You're going to be tired of me teaching, that's for sure. I've done a lot of teaching. But then, so we have the case studies. So like what happens in Storage Nerds is like after a student closes on a facility, like within probably maybe like 6 months after, I try to get them to come on to our group coaching session and do like a student showcase. How did they find it? How did they fund it? How did they run it? So we've got like maybe 40 or 50 of just students going over their deals. And I try to get most students to do it. Some won't do it, but a lot of students come on and they talk about their deals. And it's good to hear like what everybody's doing and how they're doing it. Not just me, Stacy, how did I do it? But like, how did all the students in Storage Nerds actually close on a deal? And what is it like? What is their thought process? Okay. And then the industry guest speakers. So we have, and it's included into the academy, just so you know, is a live group coaching session, which I haven't gotten to yet, but there's a live group coaching session every month. And I typically have a guest speaker come in, either a guest speaker or we do a vendor demo. And we'll have somebody come on and talk about like, you know, all different types of topics. So for instance, like we had one person come on and talk about land. And like, if you want to expand or if you want to build, like what type of land should you be looking for or buying when you're looking for that, right? Because a lot of people say, oh, I want to buy a storage facility that I can expand on. Well, what type of land do you need? There's a lot of land out there that you can't even do expansions on. And what do you need to know in order to be able to do an expansion? So we had a guest speaker about that. You know, we have vendor demos come on, like we've had Store Edge and we've had Storable and like Spider Door and all kinds of stuff. I mean, anything that you can imagine. It's a good way to keep on top of what types of companies are out there, like third-party management companies or gate operators or like softwares, all kinds of stuff. All right, so we always have, those are all available for you. We've had every type of software. We've had pretty much any major player in the industry has come and talked to Storage Nerds. Okay, so those are there. And then inside the portal, okay, so you have the dashboard, which is where all the courses and the trainings are. And then inside the portal, it's the same login. It's not two different logins or anything, but like in the portal, you're going to have like all the templates, all the checklists, all the files, everything that we've ever used over the course of the last like 10 years that we've been doing this are put into the to the portal. And then also students have put some stuff in there too. Like there's pro formas and checklists and all kinds of stuff that students even give us as well. So those are all available. There's the magic offer letter, which is available, which I told you is like, this is where you're gonna be making like 4 offers at the same time. There's transfer ownership stuff, like how do I transfer the ownership over? What do I do in that first month or so that I buy storage facilities? There's all kinds of stuff like that. And then there's also information about how to raise money, and like there's systems for that as well too. So anything that you can think of, even the contracts are in there. Wholesalers like, do I have a contract? Yes, there's contracts, there's addendums, there's partnership, there's all kinds of, there's hiring contractors, there's all kinds of contracts in there. So anything that you need is in there. Okay. And then I talked about this, but the live group coaching calls are every month. You hop on for once a month, and then you can ask me any questions. We go over wins, challenges, any questions where you're stuck. And then on top of that, we have like the guest speakers coming in. The students will come in and talk about their deal that they just closed. And then if there's a demo, some sort of vendor demo or something, we'll have that as well. So lots of stuff happening during the live group coaching call once a month. If you can't make it, it's recorded, and then we'll put it into the portal. But you can also hop on live and ask Stacy anything during that session, and I'll help you with it. Okay. And then there is the facility owner mastermind. For anybody that joins that already owns a facility, we had just somebody that just joined and he owned a facility. So we added him to our list, and he gets to start coming to the owner mastermind. And that is where, we talk about like break-ins, cameras, solar lights, gate systems, fees, contracts, marketing, all kinds of stuff inside that. Okay, that is once a month as well too. And then you have access to the Facebook group. We have a private Facebook group just for Storage Nerds and Storage Nerds students and members. And then you get to ask questions. This is where everybody's asking questions like, what type of cameras are you using? Or where do I get latches? Or is this a good deal? Or whatever it is, or it's all kinds of stuff is in that group. So that's where you just talk to each other, okay? You can ask questions. And then finally, you get to join an amazing community, because Storage Nerds is really what I tell students is don't become an island. There is no reason for you to have to go through this alone. I had to do this alone until I started Storage Nerds. There was very little out there on YouTube or anything about storage, especially nitty-gritty stuff. And so I vowed that if I could be successful, doing this, I would share what I know with the world. And then I would try to bring in people that, wanted to be just like me and just be a storage nerd. So that's why it's called Storage Nerd. So join the amazing community, and then start meeting other people that are kind of have the mindset, the same mindset of you. And then also you can we have two ladies in the group that met each other. And then they partnered on a deal together. They're closing on a deal together. One lives in Washington, one lives in Oregon, and they're buying a facility in Arizona together. So that happens all the time. Okay, and that's the whole purpose of the group. The price is typically $333 monthly, and this will be the price going back up to this price. Okay. And it's a month-to-month contract. So you can be in as long as you need to, or you can cancel at any time. You want to get in and try it out. But ultimately, if you decide to join, actually do stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing that's really frustrating to me is come to the live group coaching sessions, go through the roadmaps, go through all the courses and stuff, start educating yourself and start really trying this, And then you can, if you say, I tried this for a month, a couple of months, it's just not my thing, then you could just cancel anytime, okay? And then you just log into your account and there's cancellation section that you could just cancel, right? But right now, okay, it's $111 a month is what it is. So for $111 right now, you can join Storage Nerds Academy and you can get access to everything that I just showed you. Try it out, give yourself a month or two, and then, come to the live group coaching sessions and be part of it. And then hopefully I can inspire you enough to get out there and start talking to owners and making offers, right? Because that's where the momentum starts. But ultimately, that's it. It's a month-to-month contract. There is no obligation. Okay. There's no obligation, I guess I could put. That's it. Now you could just, I think, write, oh gosh, that is not how you spell obligation. Obligation. So right under this video that you're watching, there should be some information about the Academy, but you can also go to storagenerds.com/academy. That's it. Academy. Okay. And that is where you can sign up as well. Okay. So I hope that this gives you a little bit more information about how the Academy works. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the group coaching sessions. Okay. I look forward to seeing you get out there and talk to owners and make offers. And I appreciate you listening through this, and I will see you soon.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Storage Nerds. Hope this informative conversation inspired you to go out there and jump into this highly profitable business venture that people rarely talk about. Get more tips on storage space investing at www.stacyrossetti.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave a rating. Together, let's build that thriving passive income one storage space at a time. Until next time.